What's up everybody, welcome to another mini tutorial. So for this one I want to take a look at switching between third person and first person viewpoints. So this is something I get asked a lot and I didn't really want to do it initially, but I decided to have a look at it after all. So the reason I didn't want to do it initially is because of the animation part that should quote unquote be involved with this. So in my opinion, if you want to do this properly, you need a second mesh for the first person arms, you need first person animations, and you need to set up the actual animation side for the first person character completely from scratch. So that's going to be a lot of work, not necessarily insanely complicated, but just a lot of work in general to set everything up. Some people use the true first person mode. Well, yeah, you could try doing that. I'm not sure if it'll work with these animations and this character. You will see at the end of the video it doesn't look great. But what we're going to do in this video is set up the camera for the first person, make sure we can switch between them, and that we fix our line trace for the shooting. So those are actually the essential parts you need to do to your character to make everything work. And then for the animation side, I'm afraid you're on your own. So that's what we're going to do today. Let's dive in. So we can actually do everything inside of our hero base character. So let's open up the character. And the first thing we need is a second camera, of course. So let's go to the viewport. And to make things a little bit easier, we probably want to have a mesh in here. So let's assign a mesh for now. Eli, well, that's not the correct animation blueprint. So let's get Manny or Quinn in here. And that's a little bit better. So we're gonna attach a new camera and let's attach it to the character mesh. So select the mesh and we're gonna add a new camera over here. So let's call this my camera first person. And for this one, we want to make sure that we enable the U-Span control rotation over here. So let's enable this flag. And if we scroll down, we want to disable the auto activate. So it's not activated by default. And obviously we need to align it a little bit. So let's make sure that we have it rotated correctly and raise it up a little bit. And possibly move it forward as well. Yeah, something like that maybe. So as I mentioned, it's definitely not going to look great, but it will work. So that's the important part. Okay. So this is the camera set up and good to go. Compile and save it. And we can go to the event graph and set it up. So we want to add a button that we can press to switch between the cameras. So I'm simply going to add a keyboard input here, and you could set up an actual enhanced input if you would want to. So let me just say keyboard 9. If I press 9, I'm going to switch between cameras. Then we can add a flip-flop node in here, and this is simply a node that will switch between executing A and B every time it executes. And then we can turn on and off the correct cameras, so we can get our camera first person and also our original camera, so that's the third person one. And then for the first one, let's make this one that we enter first person. So we start in third person, so the first time we press this, we want to go into first person. So we're going to get our first person camera and we're going to set active. And make sure that this camera is active, and then grab the second camera and deactivate that one. Like so. And then we kind of want to have a boolean that we can use to determine if we are in first or third person mode. So we're going to add a new boolean in here. And let's call this is first person. So we want to make sure that we have the bool set to replicated. And because it's a replicated variable, we need to make sure that the server sets this. So over here, we want to add a hasAuthority check to determine if we are the server or not. So if we are the server, we can simply set the boolean ourselves. So we're going to plug it in over here, make sure we set it to true. And if we are a client, we need to call a replicated event. So we're going to create a custom event and call this something like a server set is first person. And all we want to do in here is set the boolean. So let's drag it in and drag it on top of the event to create an input. So for the event, we want to set the replication over here, run on server. So that's good to go. Then we can go back to the switch as authority, and in here we want to call our server set is first person. So we're going to set it to true, and then let's hook this one up over here as well. So this will reduce the feeling of input lag for a client, and it will set it locally as well. So that's good to go. And now we can simply copy this stuff and paste it for the other branch of the flip-flop node. So we're going to hook this one up to the B pin and simply switch things around. So deactivate this camera, activate the other one, and make sure we turn the bool back to false. So that's the initial setup that we need. And now we can use this boolean inside of our server BulletTrace event to determine what kind of trace we want to use if we fire a weapon. So we want to go inside of our BulletTrace event. And we're going to go all the way to the beginning. So over here, this is actually the aim trace for the camera. So that's what we want to use. And what we can do is move this over to the side. And we're going to simply use two local variables where we can store the end and the start of the trace. And then we can switch on our boolean. So first of all, let's grab the start of the trace over here. And we're going to promote this to a local variable. So local trace start. Oh, really? Thank you, Unreal. So I want to rename it over here. Local trace start. And do the same thing for the end. So again, promote to a local variable, local trace end. So those are good to go. Then we can go to the beginning of the function over here. And first of all, we're going to add a branch and check if we are in first person. So is first person. So if this is false, we can do the trace in the old way like we used to. So we can simply grab the setters over here, hook them up, start trace and end trace, and then go to the actual trace node. So in here, we want to hook up the local variables. Like so, the start and the end position. So that's good to go. And now if we are in first person, we want to handle the trace a little bit differently. So we're going to grab our first person camera. And from here, first of all, we want to get the world transform. So just the actual location of the camera. And we, well, kind of only need the location, by the way. So let's make this a little bit easier and get the world location. So for the world location, we're going to simply use this as the start of the trace. So local start trace and plug it in over here. And for the endpoint of the trace, we want to add a vector to it. So drag over here, add a vector. And what kind of vector we want to add? We're going to get the aim rotation from our variables in here. So that's probably at the beginning. So let's grab our aim rotation. And from here, we can get the forward vector. So simply the direction we're aiming at. And we can multiply this to make sure that we fire in the distance. So we're going to multiply this. And then if you right click the lower pin over here, you can convert it to an integer. And we can fire something about 10,000 or 100,000 units away. So enter a big number in here. And we simply want to add this to the starting location of the trace. And that's going to be our end location. Like so. So we can store this inside of the local variable that we created. And then we are good to go. So plug this in here, and then we're going to hook this one up to the line trace by channel as well. Okay, so that should actually be all. So let's compile and save it, and let's run a quick test to see if it's actually working. And again, I'm going to warn you, this is not going to look very pretty. So multiplayer host game. Oh, no, not the friends list. There we go. Come on. Thank you. Ready up and launch it. And now we should be able to switch. So let's try the client first. If I press the 9 key on my keyboard, so the animation is not really loaded in properly. Oh, this is something to do with the actual IK retargeting, and because this is not my original project that I used to record on YouTube, that's not fixed, but in your project the actual hands shouldn't be an issue, so my hands look really weird. But it's working, so we have sort of a first person over here, although as I kind of warned you, the animations look pretty horrible. So that's also because we're using the turn in place stuff, but the animations just aren't really smooth if you want to use them for first person, in my opinion, and the weapons don't align, ADS will not align, so you will have a lot of work making this actually look good. But that's not the real point in here. The point is that we have this working and that our line trace is working as well. And if we switch to our third person, then our line trace is also on point. So that's good to go. And then we can go to the host and try this as well. So the line trace is working, and if we switch to the first person, you can see I'm still firing at the correct location. So that part is working. We can switch between first and third person and got the cameras all set up. So the rest of the animation work is up to you. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider leaving a like, and I'll be back soon for more. Talk to you later, guys and girls. Bye bye.